Well, good morning. We are going to start. We was thinking if to start as Nordic or Central European or Eastern European countries or like South European countries, but we decided a mix and only 5 minutes of courtesy to wait to start. Then thank you very much to be here. This is the 4th occasion that we are organizing this Congress. In September 2018, we presented here in Brussels, in the office of in a room in the European Economic and Social Committee, we announced this new initiative then in 2018, which is the European Network of Family-Friendly Municipalities. Because as European associations of families, in this case large families, we realized the importance of local family policies to not only to develop family policies as in general, but also to go to a more specific and important goal, is to build a family-friendly territory. And if we want to advance, to go forward, a more family-friendly Europe, we really need to start from the base, from the local territories, to work together, civil society, companies, public administration, everybody pushing on the same way. And as you know, I think that in this time of changes, we are in a time of very important social changes. I think we are going to a new model of society. And in this new model of society, family is the key, has a very important role to play now in Europe. And you will see in the next European elections how family and issues related with family and the demographic winter, which is a consequence of the situation of families, will have a very important role in the discussion about Europe in the next elections. Then we want to work in the local territory to build these family-friendly territories. And this is the reason we started this initiative, the European Network of Family-Friendly Municipalities, because sometimes from our national associations, we realized that we were working only at the national level, and many municipalities asked to us, because we are at the European level, which are the policies, effective policies for families that they are doing in other places of Europe. Then it's not easy to find this information. Then we wanted to put in contact all municipalities in Europe really worry to develop, to build these family-friendly territories, to exchange the practices that are working, to train about what family policies are and what are the challenges you have, and to know each other, because this is a very good thing, this networking between municipalities because we working together, the effect is bigger. Then this is the idea of the European network, and now 5 years later, with a pandemic, a very big pandemic in the middle, then now we have 140 municipalities, members from 9 European countries, but it's growing. We have applications from other 3 countries now, and I think this network really will be very useful. Then thank you for coming. We are going to talk today about digitalization, which is very important if we want really to improve these policies and these measures for families. And now we are open this 4th Congress with the words of Regina Maroncelli, which is the President of the European Large Families Confederation. Thank you.
Thank you, Raul.
Yes.
Okay. And this one. Okay. So thank you, Raul. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We have traveled a lot from many countries, from Poland, Hungary, from Italy, Spain, from Ireland, from Romania, and Greece. So we are really representing a big Germany, of course, and others that maybe I don't remember now. But we have traveled to come here and share experience. Today, a gentleman told me that municipality is like a family, and I want to make his words mine, because I think if a municipality is like a family, we large families want to experience the same beauty of being welcomed and appreciated also in municipalities. This is all what is all about. This project is to make feel people welcome and live well where they are or where they want to be. This is what we want for our children. This is what we need also for our future. In time of demographic crisis, being attractive as a municipality, but also as a company, is a key for existence. So we want to share experience, we want to grow and learn as much as possible, and we want to say that it is possible to live well, many times also without a lot of investments, but just with the will of doing things, involving people, involving families, listening to them, and working with them for their benefits. So this is what we need as large families. We are a species in extinction, but we believe that our kind of family is not, doesn't reserve extinction. We can say a lot to society now, and we have become a choice. It's no more something that happens and that's it, but you choose to have a large family nowadays. So we consider our kind of family a good kind of family in modern, even in modern life. And we think that we might deserve a good place where to live. But not only for us, because where a large family can live and thrive, all kinds of families can live and thrive. Elderly people, young people, single parents, really is not a matter of number. It's a matter of inclusiveness. So thank you again for being here. I stop. I don't want to say too many things. It's not, I think it's redundant. I will let speak all our experts. They're very deep and very, I think, they give a lot of motivation. And then in the afternoon, we will listen to a lot of good experiences from municipalities. Thank you for being here, and thank you for trusting that it's possible to be family friendly, and it's worth. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Regina. Then we are going to watch a video message from Francesca Gerosa. Francesca Gerosa is the Councilor for the family of the province of Trento in Italy. Trento is really our best ally in the network, because we started the network after watching and observe the policies that Trento was developing in family policies. Then we were really very surprised, because they were very good, and we say we need to translate these policies with municipalities to all Europe, and then they accepted to be partners of the network and giving all the technical assistance and the model of family policies they are developing in the province of Trento. Then we are giving the floor to Francesca Gerosa.
Good morning. I welcome the authorities present and thank you for your invitation to participate in this important European event promoted by ELFAC, the European Confederation of Large Families, which is represented by more than 140 municipalities from 9 European countries. I would like to welcome Raul Sanchez, General Secretary, and Regina Maroncelli, President of ELFAC and the European Network, as well as Csaba member of the European Committee of Regions. At the center of the 4th European Congress of Family-Friendly Municipalities, we find digital technologies as a sign of innovation to give municipalities new tools to be closer to families. Today, we will have the pleasure of hearing some examples of good practice from Italy, Portugal and Poland in particular, which support family welfare by using, for example, online info points, new applications for mobile devices and online devices. I also want to congratulate the success of the initiative where countries from all over the world such as Côte d'Ivoire, Mexico, Brazil, Georgia and Kosovo, to name but a few, are participating. The event will also be an opportunity to give voice to the corporate world that can support municipalities and back, to provide new digital solutions to communities and particularly to families in a wide range of sectors, from transport to education, from governance to reconciliation services. There will also be a presentation of the newly created European Network of Family-Friendly Companies based on the Trentino Family Audit Model, of which we are very proud, to give voice to the many needs of workers as well as to develop work-life balance tools. I would like to emphasize the value of the network between European municipalities that have decided to invest in the family because it is a vital resource for society and an engine of social, cultural and economic development. The National Network of Family-Friendly Municipalities was established in 2017 in Italy, a result of a partnership between the Autonomous Province of Trento, the National Association of Large Families, and the Municipality of Alghero. The network currently comprises 206 bodies, 188 of which are municipal administrations and 18 of which are organizations. Today, our province qualifies as a family-friendly territory with more than 90% of the municipalities certified as Family in Trentino, which in 2023 produced, through family plans, more than 3,000 concrete family policy actions covering various areas, including services for families, infrastructures, pricing policies, family work reconciliation services. Family policies are also supported by 21 family districts with almost 1,200 member organizations and more than 400 companies are family audit certified and work in the area of work-life balance. I close by greeting you all and wishing you good work. May occasions like these also be productive in building new paths to give future and hope to our European municipalities.
Alle nostre municipalità europee.
Then thank you very much to Francesca Gerosa. This presentation, really Trento has been a very good ally on this initiative. And now I give the floor to Mr. Krzysztof Balon. This European Network of Family-Friendly Municipalities has started with the support of the European Economic and Social Committee. Then we are very happy to have with us Mr. Balon, who is the Vice President of the Civil Society Organizations Group of the European Economic and Social Committee. Good morning.
Good morning, Secretary General. Good morning, President, and very, very warm thanks for the invitation here. It's indeed a very big pleasure for me to be here, and the honor, of course. We are just to say that also the President of the European Economic and Social Committee, Mr. Röpke, said to me I should greet you very warm. I do it, and also my president, Mr. Seamus Bolland, president of Group 3, the same. While the Committee of the Regions is probably very familiar to you, I would think that it is not necessarily the case about the European Economic and Social Committee. Firstly, we are sharing the same buildings here, or the same building in Brussels. But secondly, we are similar to the Committee of the Regions because we are also producing opinions similar to the Committee of the Regions. But in our committee we have three groups: employers, trade unions, and our group, other civil society organizations. And we are not organized like a Committee of the Region among the political parties, but among these three groups with very diverse interests of the groups. And we are trying to find a consensus, if possible, between 27 member states and three diverse groups, which is sometimes not so very easy. Now let me start with the following consideration. I think that the contemporary crisis of democracy in Europe is somehow connected to the development of the family concept and the family role, from a large family to a small and individualistic family. As you may know, in our parents' and grandparents' time, large families were very common. In fact, a family with just 5 children was considered small. By the way, as you know, Madame von der Leyen is mother of 7. In a large family, children have to share many things, like rooms or food, and even spending time with the parents has to be shared in a large family. So it can be a very good training as they learn to share and to appreciate. They learn to give and take. These are not only important life skills, but first and foremost an excellent school of just social life and of practicing democracy. So I think this is the connection between large families and the crisis of democracy nowadays. And I think, of course, that it's time to recognize and re-emphasize the central role of the family community in creating and maintaining a stable, democratic and just society. In that context, let me please mention now some aspects of the policies of the European Union regarding families. The background is, of course, the demography. The demographic composition of our society is changing very fast. It is enough to say that 1/3 of households in Europe are currently single households. The demographic evolution is causing a profound impact on our economy and well-being. Our workforce will decrease by 35 million people by the year 2050, which is not only important in the negative sense for the labor markets, but also for our welfare systems. The Commission published a report on the impact of demographic change, and this report highlights this profound challenge, this double challenge, the issue of falling birth rates on the one hand and our aging population on the other hand. And that is very important in our context here, complete regions that are depopulating, that are losing their workforce and talents. I will now quote Commissioner Dubravka Šuica, who should speak on video to us today, I think, but I found a very interesting sentence in a speech of her in Vienna in April 2023. Devising effective demography policies across the European Union is an investment in our economy, in our societies, in our family, in our people. So I hope that it would be also delivered, not just the words, but also the concrete policies. The problem, however, is that the family policy is mainly a competence of member states. So only just some competences in the context of cross-border issues are on the European level, the family policy. But nevertheless, we have in the EU a number of policies in place to support families. In my personal opinion, supporting large families means also work-life balance, especially for women. But we would like to see a more equal sharing of caring domestic and household tasks between men and women. That is why the Work-Life Balance Directive of the European Union is so important. Equally important is, of course, the availability of affordable, high-quality child care and long-term care. But family policy also includes policies for our older citizens. The number of people in need of long-term care in the European Union is projected to increase from 30 million in 2019 to 38 million in 2050. That is why in September 2022 an European care strategy has been adopted, which includes also early childhood education and care, by the way. Furthermore, important political impulses are coming from the implementation of the European Pillar of Social Rights, as well as from the opportunities connected to the financial support through the diverse EU funding programs. But the solidarity across generations is key for sustainable development, and any measure to address demographic change needs to be based on an intergenerational solidarity. And sorry, I'm not really informed today because of the rain. It had input on my, not just on my throat, but also on my brain. So I have to repeat this sentence. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. So solidarity across generations is key for sustainable development, and any measure to address demographic change needs to be based on an intergenerational solidarity approach. Large families are the place in which solidarity between the generations is really living. The solidarity between the generations is of highest importance, for example, in the following policy areas: solidarity-based retirement schemes, housing, especially intergenerational housing, solidarity-based health and long care services, urban and rural areas development for all generations, political answers to climate change, including specific policy measures to provide a space for the development of intergenerational solidarity in the policy response to the climate crisis, lifelong learning, of course, including sharing knowledge from older to younger generations, development of volunteering, as well as sustainable transport and mobility for all generations. Therefore, the European Economic and Social Committee will call on the European Union to the strict coordination of the policies in the framework of the already existing EU Youth Strategy and by the EESC requested new European strategy for older persons. Such a coordinated EU horizontal approach for intergenerational solidarity should focus on protecting all rights of both young and older people, of families, and ensuring their full participation in society and the economy. Concrete proposals on this should be formulated during the preparation of our own initiative opinion on intergenerational solidarity proposed by the civil society organizations group. That is because we are also allowed to issue our own initiative opinions on important topics of the European policy. So we are preparing now this one, and it would be very important aspect would be family aspect. And Kinga Yo, who is a member of the EESC, will probably join us here. She is also involved in that work, on that opinion. So I hope for that reason it would be a good one. Now, I have to finish, I think, to summarize that it is absolutely obvious duty of us to protect our families, our large families, and their well-being. So this is always like that. You have to quote something at the end of such a speech. But I thought this should not be almost such a serious quotation. So I can say that I rather disagree with late famous American comedy actor George Barnes, who once said, "Happiness is having a large, loving, caring, close-knit family. in another city. I wish to have such a family in my house. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And now we are giving the floor to the Vice President for Demography and Democracy of the European Commission, Mrs. Dubravka Šuica. She also was, before being Vice President of the European Commission, a member of the European Parliament. Sometimes she was a mayor of the city of Dubrovnik in Croatia, and Dubrovnik was member of our European network, was one of the first cities to become member of our network. Then we are very happy because it's the first time in this term of the European Commission that a Vice President for Demography has been appointed. That means that family, demographic challenges are really a growing trend in our policies. Then we welcome, she was not able to come, she was with us at our previous Congress, and she has sent a video message.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear mayors and dear representatives of family-friendly municipalities, it's always a pleasure to engage with ELFAC and the Congress of Family-Friendly Municipalities. Once a mayor, always a mayor. Throughout this mandate, I have had a number of opportunities to engage with you on issues important for families across the European Union. Believe me, I know firsthand the time and effort both mayors and local councillors devote to making a tangible difference in the daily lives of citizens. And because it still rings true today, I repeat what I said to you in person last year. I believe that mayors and local and regional authorities are key to making our democracy fit for the future, and for all generations, and for every family within our European Union family. Your event shows the growing awareness of the importance of family-friendly municipalities as part of democratic, sustainable and prosperous economies and societies. Economies need to work for people. This has been a strategic priority for this European Commission. And my work on democracy and demography is part of the strategic priority, a new push for European democracy. Because delivering for our citizens is key to bridging the gap and building trust with citizens. They must feel that their democracy truly delivers for them. We have done this through a number of initiatives. For example, through the innovative deliberative exercise that was the Conference on the Future of Europe, where we gave citizens a voice in policy making. And we innovated with digital tools by making the online multilingual digital platform a key hub of the conference. But we did not stop there. Inspired by the conference last year, we held 3 European citizen panels as part of a pilot phase. Given the concrete outcomes, we are pursuing this through 2 more European citizens panels in advance of elections, one on energy efficiency and one on anti-hate. And we innovate for all generations, including children, with our child participation platform. If we talk about digital innovation, then we must ensure connectivity. This was a key point in the long-term vision for rural areas. To ensure our rural areas can remain strong, connected, resilient and prosperous. In June last year, the European Council asked us to prepare a toolbox to face the main demography-related challenges to the competitiveness of our European Union, and we answered their call. Last October, we came forward with a communication that is based on the 4 pillars of parents, youth, older people and legal migration. Supporting families and young parents is an integral and crucial part of this major piece of our work. Through sustaining families, we are ensuring Europe remains competitive and strong in this increasingly complex world. To help member states at all levels of governance to deliver what is needed, where it is needed. In addition, we have set up a harnessing talent platform because innovation means recognizing that Europe has talent. And we are introducing the innovative concept of longevity to our policy making because we are living longer and healthier life, an extra 20 or 30 years, so we need to make the best use of them. Dear ladies and gentlemen, it has been my pleasure to share some key thoughts with you. As we look to the future, I hope we can continue to build on this collaboration. And I take this opportunity to congratulate those new members who will receive their diplomas today. Thank you very much and all the best.
Thank you very much to Dubravka Šuica. We hope really the next term of the European Commission that family will be one of the topics. You know that no family and family policies are competence of the national policies, but as happened with other topics, I think we have to face this demographic challenge at the European scope. Then thank you to Dubravka Šuica. And now thank you the President of the European Confederation, Mr. Krzysztof Balon, to be with us. And I invite to go to the floor to Matteo Rizzolli, which is Associate Professor of Economic and Policy at LUMSA, the University in Rome. Yes, you can speak there. Also, if they want to speak, well, to be on the table, to be faster, also I invite to go to the table to Aaron Imperiale, Head of Business Development, Project Manager of the European Association for Innovation and Local Development. Also, Lucia Marchegiani, it's possible to go to the table, yes. And Adam Carazzoni, also, who is a member Vice President of the County Council of PES-Megi in Hungary, a member of the European Committee of the Regions, and Margit Tuneman, Senior Policy Office of the Urban Secretary. You can, if it's possible, to be on the table, and we start with Matteo, yes, the first presentation. Yes. Yes, I open, you can use this. You can use this. Sorry. Perfect. Thank you very much. Then the first presentation comes from Matteo Rizzolli. Matteo Rizzolli is not only an associate professor of economic policy and focus on family policies to boost economy, very interesting topic for local territories, but also is a father of 6, which is very, very important. Also, then you have the real experience how to boost economy at home, at the territories. Thank you. And
yeah, become certainly expert on how to deplete our own family economics, having so many children. But then I got interested in the economics of family because of my biography. So I started on other topics, but then when the family got larger and larger, then I thought it was interesting to go deeper in my academic understanding of what was going on to me and to the family, to the society at large. All right, so let's see if this works. Great. So the connection between economics, economic growth, and the family has been at the core of the economic science since the very beginning, since the times of Adam Smith. Of course, family has a direct connection with demographic aspects. So there is, of course, both quantitative implications through demography, but also a qualitative dimension that was mentioned by Mr. Balon before. So I'm, of course, because of the limit in times, I'm not going to go through all those aspects. I'm going to focus on the links between family, economic growth, and demographic aspects, so on the quantitative side. So basically, since the very beginning, economists, since the Wealth of Nation of Adam Smith, have been dealing with this issue. So we are all familiar with the usual topics of the Malthusian theory. Malthus was not a demographer, was actually one of the first economists, was one of the first one to have a chair in economics, and he was the guy who established the idea that natural resources at most grow linearly, whereas population grows exponentially. So from time to time you must have famine, demographic crisis, mass death, and the world goes through those waves of growth and decline. We have a much more recent version of the Malthusian theories, which is the one that has been that has started with with the Club of Rome in 1968, but has become very popular in recent years. That basically sustains that the planet has limited resources, and we cannot grow beyond those the resources we can consume, and therefore either we are heading to a disaster or we take some action, including stopping having children. And so there are these movements in recent years that claim that it should be a good idea to stop having children altogether. So these are new Malthusians versions of that old theory that basically establish that there is a negative connection between demographic growth on one hand and economic decline eventually on the other hand. So these are very early on, but you saw not also recent versions of economic theories. There is a classical theory of investments that shows instead that, well, I mean, the idea that is that in that very popular theory that if population grows too fast, then it basically substitute the needed investment in physical capital, and therefore you get on a path of development which is too much labor intensive, too lower on capital investments, and it's not going to be good for economic development. That was also very popular theory in the 50s. More recent theories, this one is by Gary Becker, instead emphasize human capital and says, well, I mean, population growth might actually have a positive effect on economic development. Why is that? Well, because the more people, the more, especially when people concentrate, and people concentrate in small places like cities, then a lot of innovation take place, because then you have critical mass to make investments in universities and in development of new ideas which actually accelerate the growth. Okay, so just to show you that economics has put a lot of thinking into this relation, but, well, all these theories started with the assumption that there was economic growth. That what you need to explain was the link between economic growth and economic development. And you saw some say it was positive, some others say it was negative. But we are now facing with the new reality that was claimed before that, well, this is the picture that shows what is the state of demographic trends across Europe. In pink and purple, you see places that are already declining in population. In light green, you see people that have a population stable, and in dark green, you see places that are actually growing. So, most of Europe, I would claim, is either stable or already declining in population. I'm not saying anything that you already don't know, of course. But so the point is that today's issue is the relation between decline and economic growth or economic decline. And let me say that economic science is facing a new question, and it's not like taking the old models and just flipping the sign in the equations, and you get results, the same results, just on the other side of the just flipping the sign. It poses a totally new and different sets of problems that the economics need to analyze. And I must say that, well, there are not many theories out there. Okay, this was the cover of The Economist of 1 or 2 years ago that basically claimed exactly the lack of existing theories on how, so what's going to happen now that certainly most of Europe, but I mean, you know that population decline is, there are around 80 or 90 countries around the world that are already below the replacement level. So they are going to face what we are facing in Europe. So, and we don't have good theories to explain that. So what I'm going to do now is to show you, but can you, do you see the same that I see? So it's like a cutted slide, so you don't see the last row. Is there a way we can? It's strange. So there's part of the slides on the next screen. I don't know if. Anyway, so I'm going to show you the potential consequences of this demographic decline on public finances and infrastructures, what could be the implications for firms and markets, and could also the potential implications for some aspects that concerns families as well. And so what about infrastructures and public expenditures? So this is a picture of Detroit. Detroit, taken recently. Detroit was a city that back in the 50s was a 3 million people city, and by now it's below 1 million, okay? And this is the skyline of Detroit. So you have entire, very large districts that have been basically wiped out, okay? So houses have been going to ruin at after many decades of very high crime rates and very low scores on all potential measurable indexes of good life in a city. The municipality of Detroit has basically decided to literally pay people to move to the center and destroy what were the peripheries of the city. Concentrate people in the center because, I mean, the city grew too large, and grew too large meant that it built up an infrastructure that was meant to serve 3 million people, but now with only well below 1/3 of that, they were too expensive to serve all the remaining people. So schools, public transportation, garbage collection, and so on. So you can, I mean, you are the municipalities. You know what it takes to serve a community and what could happen if your community is decreases by that much. So this picture speaks a million words in saying what are the implications for infrastructures. Of course, these are at the local level, but there are, of course, effects on the public finances that were mentioned before. It is true that fewer people and fewer babies implies that you can save some money, right? You spend less on education, you spend less on family policies. You probably are gonna, at least in the medium term, to spend much more on healthcare and much more on pensions. Well, I mean, maybe not at the municipality level, but at the country level. That's this is what is going to happen. And you certainly know that the amount of the public budget that is dedicated to the first two voices is much smaller than what is dedicated to the last two voices. So, the effects on public finances is certainly, I mean, the public finances are, even assuming that they can decrease to some extent, they are not decreasing as fast as the GDP might decrease. The debt GDP, so that implies that public expenditures over GDP is going to increase. This has implications for very important and key measures of public finances, which, I mean, like in places like Italy and other countries that are very highly indebted, know too much well. The debt to GDP ratio is going to be much more difficult to be kept below the thresholds that we need to be kept. let me see what I've written on the. Raul, can you help me? I don't know if it's.
You need to go to the next slide.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Okay. So okay, maybe now it's better. All right. So this is the likely. So these are the things that we have to understand much better as economists concerning public finances. On firms, well, smaller markets imply that smaller economies of scale, smaller economies of knowledge. Of course, you can try to improve on the export side, but you know, if the whole world is decreasing in population, it is difficult to imagine that there are export substitutes for a decreasing internal market for everybody. If profits decrease, then also investments decrease as well. Labor costs are going to go up. Why is that? Well, because, I mean, likely for workers will become more scarce. So if you want to hire a worker, labor costs must increase as well. And this is what worries the most people expert in management and knowledge management. It's probably, we should expect less innovation to happen. And why is that? Well, it's very intuitive. I mean, young people tend to be much more innovative also at the entrepreneurial level than older people. As the society gets older and the ratio of young to older increases, we should expect. And I mean, think about, I mean, this is theory, but think about, we are discussing why Europe is lagging behind in innovation vis-a-vis the US or also China. Why is that? Well, I mean, I'm not saying this is the explanation, but this is likely to be one of the potential explanations. There is also an age problem that, I mean, the demographic of Europe is not the same as the demographic of the US. Here, so last point I want to make on families. Well, what is one of the effects on families of this demographic decline? Well, one very likely effect is going to be on the savings of families. In a country like Italy, I mean, Italy is well known not for the public finances, you know, not very well kept, but for private finances. So families have a very large savings, and that has also always been a very good thing of the Italian economy. Well, most of those savings are saved in homes, okay? So these are estimates from the Bank of Italy. So more than half of the savings are in homes. And what happened to homes when people are not gonna live in those homes? Well, the prices of homes just drop, and drop as dramatically as, and here you see that picture on the right. Basically, these are the municipalities in Italy that have initiatives, and they offer you a home for €1. You can go there and they're gonna give you one home for €1. And why is that? Because nobody lives there any longer. And in order to attract somebody, they're gonna give you, so think about that implications for the savings of family. So people who have saved their wealth into homes are basically, that wealth has disappeared, okay? So this is another potential, and you know, I mean, the saving consumption can get trapped in a very bad spiral. If your savings go down, then consumption go down, and this can go very badly. Of course, I'm putting forward scenarios. I mean, things are not moving that fast, and we have time to, or at least to think about that. But this is not that far too distant future. So, how much time do we have? Do you have like okay, so 5 minutes to go. So what to do about that? So, I mean, of course, there is the standard toolkit of family policies. And we all, I mean, I'm not going to spend time on that, but we know there are fiscal policies that can be done. In Europe, we have a variety of solutions. We tried almost every kind of solutions. In Italy, we had a recent reform, which is not, it was an improvement, but not as good as many other European countries do. We have in-kind services that were mentioned before, very important. We have labor market policies that need to be done in order to improve the work-life balance, as it is called. I prefer to call it work-family harmonization, because balance would imply that there is a trade-off. Harmonization instead implies that, I mean, these two things are really together. Anyway, so not gonna do into that. But anyway, so if you think, what is the common ground of all this standard toolkit, is that they all aim at decreasing the cost of parenting, okay? Parenting costs, so the idea is that parenting costs too much. We have, to some extent, to ease their costs, either through direct transfer or through in-kind transfer, or to make working less tasking to some extent. Well, good, this must be done, no doubt, and many countries, including Italy, are lagging behind, at least on some of them, but it seems not enough. It seems that even those countries, Finland, many Northern European countries, France, that score excellent on each one of those points have fertility ratios that are declining. So what else? Well, there is the need to project the family and parenthood as central and meaningful to society, not easing private costs of parenting, but making and letting people understand that parenting is a central key, is a public good, is something that produces externalities for everybody. And how to do that? Well, we need more radical approaches, and I think what you're doing here, what you're going to discuss today, the idea of family mainstreaming, of bringing families more mainstream, is not something on the periphery of the policies, like the good guy in the capitals do the real stuff and the municipalities do the periphery. No, what you're doing is one of the new ways that address the need to go beyond that standard toolkit. So and I'm going to tell you what to do. You are going to tell us what you're going to do, what you're doing in your municipalities. I want to add to that a complementary thing, this guy that I'm showing here is a demographer. Back in the 80s, he's an Hungarian demographer. Back in the 80s, was already had the intuition that the standard toolkit was not going to be enough, and he was thinking about radical policies. One of the policies he mentioned, it's the one that is this, and I want to spend the last minutes to talk about it, because I think there might be something we can share, or maybe some ideas for you to develop. So what is the demesne voting he proposed? Well, basically, so we have already said that public expenditures do not represent the interests of children and families. I mean, we spend way too much on pensions and healthcare, which is good, it's great, but it serves the interest of a very specific age cohort, and we spend too little on families and children and education and labor policies. I mean, there was a German foundation computed the ratio of young to elderly public expenditures, and for some countries like Poland and Italy, it was 7-to-1. €7 spent on the interest of elderly vis-a-vis €1 spent to the interest. So why is that? Why do we have this elderly-driven public expenditure. Well, one reason is that it doesn't make any sense for a rational voting maximizer politicians to actually commit to spend anything on children. Children do not vote. Why should, I mean, pensioners do vote. I mean, this is a model of, it's a public choice, so an economics-driven theory of how democracy works, which tend to have some good empirical relevance. So the idea of the MNE was, well, how do we make those children politically powerful? How do we enfranchise those children? Do we get them to the ballots? Well, let's talk about it. But certainly we can give those the voting rights for those children to the parents. After all, we ask the parents to take care of all the interest of the children, including their education, their safety, their all the interests of the children are taken care of by the parents, except their political interest. So, I mean, don't have time to go into the details, but because time is over, by the way. So, but I want to leave you with this intuition. So far there is some research. There are some attempts to understand what would the many voting imply for the balance, the behavior of politicians and how public expenditures are balanced, but nobody really tried the mini voting. And so the idea could be that maybe some municipality at some level, at some local or small communities try it out. Maybe we do an experimentation, maybe we do it together. So. And we to show that it really might tilt the balance in favor of families and children and new generations. And that's it for my presentation. Thank you very much for this invitation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Matteo Rizzolli. Really, this idea is one of the objectives of the European Confederation of Large Families, to have the proxy vote for children, for the parents representing children, because if the suffrage is universal, then children has to be represented, because it's the place where you decide the budget, and the budget is where the policies are defined. Then we'll be really very happy if one of the municipalities present here, or members of the network, try to test this votation. I don't know, maybe in a small referendum, local referendum, municipal referendum, to say, okay, the votes, parents with children represent the votes of children. Will be very interesting. Then thank you very much, Professor Rizzolli. And I give the floor to Aaron Imperiale. Aaron Imperiale is very interesting because, you know, we are here to talk also about innovation challenges. Then he represents the European Association for Innovation in Local Development. And he's going to talk about a very interesting initiative, which is Digital Villages, and the roadmap and practical toolkit for it. Then thank you very much, Mr. Imperiale, to be with us.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Secretary General, Madam President. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. And Professor, that was extremely interesting, your presentation. Just as a side note, I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, actually, which went through, so I really appreciated the example of Detroit, because Cleveland went through the same type of demographic shift from the 1950s to today. I think maybe even worse. I think the population was around 1 million in the 50s, and now it's down to 400,000. So similar percentage. My family, my parents had 8 in their family on each side, and well, we know what it is today, right? It's been significantly decreased. So all of that filters into the topic of today. So thank you for such an interesting presentation. I'll shift a little bit the gear today, maybe to focus more on just a really specific example of where digitalization can work to improve at the local level, the community. And this is a project that we're working on, our association in Bosnia. So let's say in the periphery of Europe, not yet in the EU 27, but I thought it was an interesting case to bring to the table, especially for a number of the comments that were mentioned this morning about pushing towards democracy and keeping municipalities at the center of our democratic values, which we espouse here in Europe. So I thought this would be a nice example to bring to the table. So, can I change the slide here? Oh, this one. Okay. Oh, great. Thanks. So, thank you. So it's a mouthful. It's a bit of a mouthful. Development of a step-by-step guidelines for participatory digital villages initiative. Roadmap design and practical toolkit. So some of these projects have long names and even longer acronyms. I just call it DVI. It's a project that's been financed and piloted by the FAO, so part of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. Just very quickly, for those of you who don't know ADL, I just wanted to take 2 minutes just to present our organization, just so you know sort of who we are, who I am, and hopefully during the coffee break we can continue talking and networking. We're a Brussels-based association. We've been around for 35 years, and I think the 2 key words there, besides Europe, obviously, is innovation. So we're focused on all aspects of innovation, right? That's a high bar, let's say, to maintain, but we're interested in the, let's say, the trends in innovation such as digitalization and other things that can drive, indeed, local development. So this is really the core of what ADL's mission is, and we're a project-based organization. So we don't have members. We're not a members network, but we're a project-based NGO. So we are working a lot with Horizon and also with the different DGs on, it could be on tenders, what they call commercial tenders, where there's sort of competitive bidding, or it could be on research projects or research and innovation projects, such as under the Horizon Europe, or previously Horizon 2020 scheme, or even with third, let's say, donors or financiers, such as I mentioned, the FAO, European Investment Bank. We've done some things with them. We're also looking at opportunities with the World Bank and with other DGs, DG NEAR, and so forth in areas such as the Balkans, the Caucasus, etc. And just we focus sort of on 3 sectors. So when we're talking about the innovation and local development, we're not really talking about transport, or we're not really talking about satellite transmissions, for example. We're talking about 3 specific things, which is sort of the green environmental area. So how can we improve the green and environmental areas? Rural and territorial development. It's our largest. We have a big team of especially policy people, PhDs and professors and things working on this side of the equation. And then we're also doing a lot of social things in employment, entrepreneurship, and inclusion. We have a number of projects where we're working with minority groups around Europe. One project that I'm managing is in Miskolc in Hungary, where we're working with Roma population, also who have very large families, and how to integrate them into society and look at how to improve the different social services. So we're looking at innovative ways on how to do this. That could be maybe a topic for another discussion. And yeah, the point is that all of these areas have some component of digitalization. I have a slide at the end just as an example, but there's always a component of digitalization in some form or another, because it's really, let's say, a buzzword today, or an important, let's say, development. Right, and so we're working on policy, technical assistance, and communications and disseminations of services. But enough about ADL. I would like to talk a little bit about the project. And just a quick mention about FAO, because they kindly authorized me to discuss this project today. So I just wanted to put a quick plug in about them. For those of you maybe who know them or haven't known them, I would strongly encourage you to get in touch. We're working with the office that's based in Budapest, in Hungary, as this is in Bosnia. And they're really very professional, highly skilled. They know what they're talking about. They're motivated. They have tested models and tools that they use. For example, this one that we're doing in Bosnia had already been tested in Tajikistan and in Uzbekistan. They know a lot of people. They've got a strong network of contacts, and that really helps for us when we're coming into the, let's say, fresh into the country. They help us in navigating and say, hey, talk to this person or talk to that person, sort of setting up meetings and things. So they've been great, and they're committed and easy to work with. So this is the only theoretical slide I have in the presentation, but it's really not even that theoretical. It's more just to show you the sort of steps of what these digital villages mean. So, I mean, what does it mean? Digital villages. It's really about networking people in the villages, in their own respective municipalities or smaller villages, together, so that, as we were saying in some of the comments this morning, some of the opening comments, so that all the boats can rise, and so that whether it's at the family level or employment, that all boats are rising together. I think there was I noted something that I think it was the Secretary General said this morning about working together and the effect is bigger, right? And another thing, another quote I noted from Madam President when she said this morning was, you can live well in these different areas with you don't need such massive investments, right? You just need to listen to them. And in fact, that's a key point here. So this slide is really about this. It's about scanning the territory. You go there, figure out who's who, and you try and identify, right? You pick potential winners, because obviously some municipalities are going to be maybe a little bit more, I'm hesitant to say the word advanced, but maybe a little bit more open to your idea, let's say. And then you do an assessment of, okay, who can we work with? Whom can we hook up with? And then you design this roadmap. That's where we are right now. So we're what I'll talk about in the project is we're in this area right now where we're sort of designing and implementing. It's between those two phases. Once it's implemented, you sort of monitor it as they're moving along. What sort of tools are they using? Are things working? Are people linking up? Are they advancing? Is the economy rising? Have there been significant improvements? And then ultimately, and then you can see there's a sort of a feedback loop. If things need to be retweaked, well, then you go back to the assessment and maybe we chose the wrong village, or not the wrong village, but maybe there's someone else whom we could insert into the loop to maybe boost it up again, run through the process, and the ultimate goal is to arrive at a functional digital village. Right, so in this particular project, there were two municipalities which were chosen, so Pale and Kakai, not too far from Sarajevo, for those of you maybe who are familiar with geography of Bosnia, or if you've ever been there before. So, sort of as I mentioned, the overall objective is, right, the high level, the 30,000 foot objective is, right, you want to improve the livelihoods of these communities. And you're doing that through what they call transformative process. So it's a development process or transformative process of moving from, let's say, the old way, right, into the new way. Some examples: improved access to services, including finance. Some things that Professor Matteo was mentioning in his presentation. Talking about rural areas, better farm management. How can farmers improve their lot and their livelihood? We've seen just last week, right, in Europe, what the problems, what the major issues are with the farmers and rural areas. And this was also touched upon in the opening comments. let's call it brain drain, or maybe not so much brain drain, it's more youth, maintaining the youths in the rural communities. What sort of opportunities do they have so that they don't leave their rural communities or their local municipalities for the bigger cities, right? So that's also an issue, and that's inextricably tied with family planning and family development and keeping the family node together. Management decision making, promoting digital literacy, right? If it's a digital project, well, then you need to be somewhat digitally literate, and increasing overall efficiency, productivity, profitability for all. The specific objective then of this small project, again, not a major investment, it's a 40,000 euro project. This is not a multi-million euro investment. It's really something that's small, and it complies with Edel's mission, as I mentioned, and so we wanted to be involved in this because it's an exciting and dynamic area. And here the idea is to develop these tools in this roadmap. So what does that consist of? See how much time do I have? I'm sorry. I'm just looking. I have time? Okay. So there are sort of two major outputs, just very quickly, is the first is a sort of step-by-step guidelines. So after conducting interviews, having focus groups, talking to the people, listening, as was said this morning, listening to the people and saying, well, what are their needs? What are their concerns? Not coming in with a sort of top-down, imposing kind of model and saying, you have to do it this way. No, listening to what they're doing and what they need, and how can it be adapted through these different workshops and focus groups and what we call mapping exercises. So we put together kind of guidelines. We're in the process of doing that right now because we just did a mission to Bosnia in January. And then the second output comes later in the year, is that once this has kind of been tested and run through, let's say, the model, we tweak it, we sort of modify it, and then it needs to be translated. But as I was mentioning in the beginning, these things have been tested in other places, but there are other countries where FAO is interested in working, such as Albania or Kosovo, Georgia. I heard this morning, I was very pleased to hear that Georgia, Kosovo, even Cote d'Ivoire are a part, to some degree, from what I understood, of the different networks. Very, very exciting. So this is the idea is replicability in order to be able to use the model in other places as well, in similar types of places. So just real quickly, the activities we're as I mentioned, developing the tools. So what are all these tools, the toolkit that we can develop via engagement with the local partners, listening to them, through workshops, working together. Feedback, right? We need a feedback loop. We need to understand, are we on track? There's different SWOT analyses or other types of sort of analytical models that you can use to kind of get that proper feedback and do a proper analysis. And as I mentioned, replicability. In fact, as part of the project, we're looking to see if towards the end of the project we could do a second mission into either Turkey or Georgia. It's being examined. I think we're leaning towards Turkey at the moment, but just because they have a little bit more, I think, advanced models already in place, but to be determined. And there's a map of my hometown. So doing a roadmap then. That's the ultimate goal, is to have this roadmap ready, and then, of course, disseminate and publicize it and make it known to others in fora such as these and in other places. So in the field mission, just to give you some examples of some of the tools and techniques that we were using. Maybe you're familiar with some of these. It's quite interesting. So one is called a safari, and that's kind of where you go around and visit different places, and you talk to the people, and you listen, and you learn as to what's going on. And then you do a social mapping. So it's not social by social class. They call it social mapping, meaning by places of importance. Not so much places of importance. It's difficult, the terminology, because it's not so much, it's not a competition. It's more what adheres best to the models that we're looking at. For example, could it be farmers? We talked with dairy producers, beekeepers, people in the municipalities or local administrations, agritourism, schools, and you kind of map these out and you see, okay, where's the most potential? Could we put could we cluster these guys together? Sometimes it's personal. Do these guys get along? These guys don't like each other. Okay, so maybe we should keep them apart. So a lot of it is really this just kind of mapping exercise. And then there's this clock exercise that we did, which is the clock is a sort of daily sort of, okay, you get up at 5 a.m., you go to bed at 10 a.m., what happens? What do you do at 6? What do you do at 7? What do you do at 8? What do you do at 9? What's your daily routine? In detail, and you sort of map it out and plan hour by hour sort of what do you do, because that's where we can see, okay, here's some inefficiencies. Okay, did you ever think of doing it this way? Because maybe you're losing efficiency on this point here. Maybe we could tweak it in a different way. And what's called a seasonal calendar is the clock, but over the season. So over what happens in the winter, what happens in the summer. Again, we're dealing mostly with rural areas here, so a lot of it deals with, as I mentioned, dairy, beekeeping, etc. Conducting interviews, as I mentioned, and doing workshops. I mentioned we did a SWOT analysis, and of course, the goal, as I mentioned in that original slide, is to have FAO sort of replicate the model also in other countries. And of course, as I mentioned, also stock taking, right? So you always have this feedback loop where you're drawing from what you've learned and see, okay, how can we finalize this and put everything together in a nice package and hopefully replicate it. Just some quick pictures of the mission. I'm sure you're familiar with this sort of Mentimeter tool, right? It's kind of a fun thing where on your phone, you sort of, people vote as to the keywords and things, and then you do a sort of a mapping of the keywords. So it was kind of a fun exercise to get the juices flowing. I mean, and some of these things were done even in the outdoors, sort of, with the stabilo, the highlighters, and sort of writing things on the map and carving different parts out and trying to see, okay, what can we do in such and such area. So finally, the challenges, just some of the things that we encountered were, first of all, identifying who represents the community. So this sometimes is a difficult thing to understand, because a lot of these communities are well, family-based for sure, but there's a certain maybe unwritten hierarchy in Bosnia in particular, if some of you have maybe worked or have spent some time there. And so there's a sort of representative, yeah? And the idea is trying to figure out, well, who is that person whom we should be talking to? Sort of a decision maker, and getting that person on your team, right? Getting buy-in from them. As I mentioned, there could be divergence of opinions between the different groups, different demographics. That was also brought up. I liked your Demeni model at the end, where kids don't really have a say in it. Well, same here, young versus old, men versus women, one region versus another, divergence of views, and of course in let's say acceptability, or even in advancements and even technological advancements, where one municipality may be a little bit more advanced than the other. And of course, there's always a problem of scalability in any of these projects. So I think I'm out of time. Yeah. So, okay. Am I out of? Do I still have time, or?
You have only 1 minute more.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. So thank you. So no, just this last slide, I was just showing you that some other projects that Edel is working on, and you can see they all have a component of that digitalization in it. So again, thank you very much. I look forward to talking with you during the break, and thank you for your attention.
Yes. Thank you very much. Very interesting. I think we will have time during the lunch, if possible. And also we have a place at the end for questions and answers. Then if you are interested in the initiatives, you can cooperate with this association from your municipality. I'm happy to give the floor to Lucia Marchegiani. Lucia Marchegiani is also Associate Professor of Business Organization at the Department of Business Studies at Roma Tre University. And she's going to talk about digital development in companies and municipalities for family-friendly services. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Secretary General. Thank you, President, Vice President. Thank you for inviting me. I'm the mother of the same 6 kids that Matteo have, as we happen to be a husband and wife. And it's really an honor for me to be here today, because Matteo has talked a lot about these networks, and every time he had encountered you in some other occasions, he was thrilled to talk about this fertile ground for policies and innovations on families to support families. I'm sorry, I don't know if I have to step back or is it okay? Yeah, thank you. So I will try to propose a reflection on my research on management and digital transformation, what it means for corporations and especially for work environments. I'm not an economist, I teach business organization, human resource management, and I am a worker myself. So I have been, to be honest, I've been a little reluctant to speculate on my personal biography, being the mom of 6 kids, on a more professional ground. Probably I wanted to demonstrate that I could be something else, not only a mom. And starting from these, I have been thinking a lot of my perceptions. Why should I demonstrate something to whom? And I think this is probably something that I share with other working moms, and we could propose some different approaches, even when it comes to human resource management policies for women and for working women. So what I would like to talk to you about is about digital transformation. I would like to say it very straightforward to policymakers. I've been told that policymakers only read 3 lines and do not have time to listen to 15-minute speech. So there is a great opportunity. I guess that digital transformation is really providing corporations and even small firms with the opportunity to change the work environment for the better or for the worse, when it's not taken into the right, let's say, perspective. And I will talk about organizational culture and the impact of digitalization on organizational culture. And I will try to propose a view on digital ecosystems and how having this framework on digital ecosystems can put into perspective what can be done for families and for, let's say, workers, including working moms and women. So digital transformation is a very trendy word that has been around for some years and deals with the great impact, the disruptive impact of digital technologies on every aspect of life, being private lives and also, let's say, business models, business whatever. But it's not something really new. We used to teach to our students that we are now in the 4th or maybe 5th revolution, but there have been other revolutions in other times. So, and every time a revolution appears, there is some technology that disrupts the way things have been done in the past and propose new models. So I will not go into the details of each revolution, but just to say that this 4th revolution that we refer to as smart automation has something maybe really different from the previous ones. Other authors refer to the 5th industrial revolution, so maybe in the time span of less than 10 years, we have experienced 2 revolutions, whereas the other revolutions have happened in quite a larger time span. So this is already a big difference. What is new now and is challenging how we live and how we work is that the human intelligence really needs to be combined with something that we can call artificial intelligence. So digital technologies have been disruptive, how we work and how we live, and there are many works and many research on what the future, the jobs of the future will be, what the competencies of the future will be. We know that 80% of the jobs that will be needed in 30 years from now are not known at the moment. So nobody seems to be able to really predict what the future brings. So 30 years in the market labor is not a huge time span. We as educators should be able to start implementing educational programs to educate people who will work 30 years from now. Well, we don't know what we should teach them. And another interesting characteristics of this fifth industrial revolution is that there is a strong emphasis on inclusion and purpose. I will go more into the details later on this, but I just want you to keep that in mind because it gives this fifth revolution some specific flavor that might be interesting for us. So there are many models to tackle with these disruptive technologies. One which is very accredited is the Gartner Hype Curve. And there are, let's say, mature and emerging technologies that are combined in the workplaces and are shaping new business models. I will not, of course, name all of them. Some are more familiar than others. I will just let you know that the one that you are seeing is the, let's say, the emerging technologies, the hype curve of the emerging technologies. But there are other curves that Gartner proposed that go more into the specifics of some, let's say, domains. And interestingly enough, this huge consultancy is proposing different curves for the workplaces. So one important, let's say, characteristic is that there is a curve on collaborative workplace. So we are now defining the workplace as collaborative. Because of the digital technologies, because digital technologies allow people to effectively collaborate, effectively share knowledge, and effectively produce new knowledge, even in terms of, let's say, innovation. So we are all familiar with flexible working. Yeah. And is it stable? Okay, thanks. But this term of collaboration, it's not a new phenomenon, but now it seems to be more possible, let's say, because of the digital technologies. And another aspect is the HR transformation. HR managers are currently facing a huge challenge, not only because they don't know what the future will look like, but because they are now empowered with several technologies, several applications of digital technologies that could let them know their employees better and target the HR policies really in a one-to-one way, which was not possible. But of course, this is also challenging for the competency of the HR manager, who are not always prepared to do so. So again, I will not read all these technologies that you see in this curve, but it's interesting to see that digital technologies can allow different ways of shaping the HR policies. Because when it comes to the impact of digital technologies for families, let's say, I think that the mediating variable is the well-being of the workers, and that goes back to the inclusion and purpose that we saw before. Having put in the center these words, inclusion and purpose, give the employees some ways of, let's say, room for advocacy of their wellness and health. In fact, digitalization, digital transformation is not only adapting and adopting new technologies, but it really shapes how processes are defined and how processes are designed and are enacted. So in a way, it's counterintuitive, because we have this massive adoption of digital technologies, so the artificial component, which indeed put the human component at the center. So if a company just adopts some sort of AI application, it does not necessarily mean that this company will be more successful in the future. But if this company adopts the AI application with the human factor involved, engaged, and seriously motivated, that will lead to, more likely that will lead to successful business models. And this is something that companies, regardless of the size, are really starting to understand. So it might seem counterintuitive, but in the age of the artificial intelligence, the human factor is really becoming central in the organizations. Another way to look at this phenomenon is to look at the rise of the platform. We are all familiar with these very famous platforms that you see on the right screen, on the left side of the screen, and many researchers have started to talk about platformization and how firms are now becoming, let's say, platform where a shared set of technologies, components, and relationship bind together different actors, I would say, in general term, and to create value. So another shift, very important, is from one single firm to a network of firms. And again, networks have been around in managerial literature for years, but now they have become really more important, and I will talk a bit at the end about ecosystem. Now we talk about networks and platforms in the sense of ecosystem. So in the ecosystem, all actors are important, whereas we are more used to think of these platforms as powerful, big corporations, the over-the-top corporations like the big numbers, big names you see here, but it does not have to be like this. I mean, we can look at the phenomenon from a different perspective and empower all the actors. And especially if we look at this image on consumer and producers, we now refer to the prosumers. In the platforms, the consumers are also the producers, and it gives some interesting, let's say, room for research and also for conversation from a managerial point of view. In fact, regarding organizational models, although we are still used to think of the organization charts with a hierarchy, with board of directors, with the president and CEO and all the functions in a very schematic way, what is emerging is a new way to organize corporations and companies without having very strict and rigid and formal hierarchical structure. So it looks like the most successful company in this fifth revolution, in this digital age, would be those companies with no hierarchy at all, that are organized either as the holacracy, as you see on the left side, with circles and roles and, let's say, responsibilities that are clearly assigned and people that are really empowered with this responsibility, but in, let's say, flexible arrangement. On the other side, you see an example of the TL organizations. It's let's say, a proposal by LaLu, but it has been receiving some credit, where this organization is a sort of organization with no structure at all, where self-management is at the core, and where this concept of wholeness, where the individuals are taken into account as a whole person, not just because of their productive function in the specific organizational context. Somebody refers to the TL organizations as family, and this metaphor of companies as family as the company, has been around for some years, but I would say with some sort of rhetoric. It looks like the TL organization is more genuinely taking the metaphor of family to really account for the personality of people working in the organization, with this kind of evolutionary purpose where there is no board that decides the strategy and the goals, but the strategy and the goals are decided by the whole organization, with the taking into account the ideas of all the people working. So this kind of, let's say, promising scenario where digital technologies allow the human element to be put at the core, where organizational models really unlocks the potential of individuals, are actually possible only where organizational culture is taken seriously into account. And we look at the skills, emotions, and expectations more closely. So we all know that there is this huge trade-off in competencies, and we don't have the workforce ready for the job of the future, whatever they may look like, especially when it comes to digital skills. So there are huge efforts in terms of digital literacy, huge efforts in terms of education, basic digital education, but there is also a big fear of what the interaction between human and artificial elements will look like, especially in terms of how much the artificial intelligence will replace the human actors. There is a way to look at this phenomenon as the human plus machine plus human proposed by SICA, where there is no replacement, but there is room for human as let's say the final actor in taking the decisions, and that's something fascinating. But what is interesting is that, okay, digital literacy deals with the knowledge component. We need to know some basic, let's say, component of these digital technologies, digital age, and it's technological literacy, data literacy, but it always has this human component. So especially, let's say, when we look at the digital literacy literature, there's always the human component. So knowing the technology per se is not enough. And that's really a challenge, because on the other side, we know that new generations, which are digital native and maybe know better than us the technological side and the data side, know very little of the human literacy, because they have been exposed to digital technologies, maybe. But what is important to know is that they need to be re-educated in the human relation, especially and even more importantly in the digital age. In fact, even if we look at the skills framework, the skills and competencies literature, okay, it's about soft skills as in the past, but the relational competencies have become more and more important. And again, there is this kind of, let's say, paradox where new generations lack in the relational competencies. So, and there is a responsibility of us on our side. In fact, we talk about Phygital, One Life, and there are some interesting studies on the employee experience. As I said at the beginning, human resource managers are now more powerful because they can really use big data, they can use machine learning, they can use digital technologies not only to track the behavior of workers, like with the Amazon wristband, where Amazon could track whether the worker have the, let's say, the right movement to maximize the efficiency. That is not the right way to look at the digital transformation. They can leverage this technology to maximize the well-being, the motivation, the engagement of the workforce, including their personal life. Because that's the missing element, let's say the elephant in the room, is that all the literature in human resource management, organization, and even management never talk about families in the background. Never. Even maybe let's say the family business literature, because they are smaller, because they have a sort of a familiar approach, but there is no theoretical framework that really takes into account the family component in the behavior of people when they are inside the organization, when they work. But we cannot separate the two things. So even in the Phygital and on life, especially with this remote working, we work from home. So in the home, we have the children coming around, and somehow they must be taken into account. In fact, technology can also bring anxiety, fear. So it's not only a love story. We know that there is a dark side of this story, and it must be taken into account to have healthy organizations and not toxic organizations. Digital, in this sense, is technology in this sense is not neutral, because it really depends, and the direction really depends on how it is enacted and conceived in the workplaces. New generations have been talking about that again, and I will not repeat myself, but we know that they are different animals, different generations, different species, I will say, and it must be treated. Especially, we have done a small research on the expectations in approaching the labor market, and it's very clear they want organizations to maximize, now I'm saying work-life balance. Matteo has used the harmonization, which is always better, but they are pushing this stance more strongly than we did in the past. So one proposal, I will go directly to the last slide. If we look at this digital age truly as a digital ecosystem where all the actors have equal importance, we may probably we can probably think of replicating what the Patti Digitali is from, let's say, the effort to educate younger generation in using in a responsible way the digital technologies, to have some sort of digital impact alliance, even for shaping the digital workforce so that it allows people to flourish and not to be kept into the anxiety trigger. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lucia. Really, it's a big challenge we have with digitalization. And now I'm happy also to give the floor to Adam Carazzoni. Adam Carazzoni was also speaker in our previous Congress because he's member of the European Committee of the Regions, and he was also the reporter of a very interesting paper on demographic challenges in Europe. And now he's going to talk about territorial cohesion, family policies, and demographics. Thank you, Mr. Carazzoni.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Thank you for the floor. Dear President Maroncelli, dear Secretary General Sanchez, dear ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for their kind invitation and for the opportunity to participate in this timely and important discussion on demography, family-friendly policies, and territorial cohesion. I come from Hungary, and demography is high on the strategic agenda of my country. Some of you might know that we biannually organize the Budapest Demographic Summit, which has grown to be one of the key international conferences on demographic issues since 2015. Family-friendly policies play a crucial role in promoting balanced and synergic territorial development within European member states, regions, cities, and municipalities. They contribute to ensuring a sustainable future for all territories in Europe by addressing demographic challenges and supporting economic growth. More specifically, family-friendly policies help prevent demographic decline by creating an environment that supports family life, attracts and retains citizens, and fosters economic and social well-being at all across Europe. This, in turn, contributes to regional cohesion significantly. Demography needs urgent attention. Our societies are gradually being reshaped by the challenge of demographic change. We all hold a piece of a puzzle, and there have already been several measures taken on the ground in different member states, and now our next task will be to ensure that these demographic best practices gain the recognition and support that they deserve, so we can give them a much-needed boost to take them to the next level. Let me first give a brief overview of the strategic approach we took in Hungary, then I will present my previous and future work on related Committee of the Regions opinions on the topic of demography. So first I'm going to talk about our national action. Hungary is a relatively favorable state than previously regarding demographics. In terms of the birth rate change between 2010 and 2020, Hungary achieved one, if not the highest statistics in the European Union. This is the result of a number of targeted measures in line with the Hungarian government 2010 announcement of the so-called family-friendly turn. In this context, the Hungarian government launched its famous Family Protection Action Plan. More specifically, under the 7 points of the Family Protection Action Plan, let me briefly overview it. First is every woman under the age of 40 married for the first time became eligible for a preferential loan up to 10 million Hungarian forints, around 26,000 euros, with repayment of the loan suspended for 3 years after the birth of a child and for another 3 years after a second. In addition, 1/3 of the principal of the loan was to be written off after the birth of a second child. If a third child was born, then the remaining debt was to be cancelled its entirety. The second element of this action plan, that preferential loans became available under the already established family housing benefit scheme. Before, families with 2 children could receive low-interest loans of around 26,000 euros for the purchase of new homes, while families with 3 or more children had access to corresponding preferential loans up to around 38,000 euros. As part of the action plan, families with 2 or more children also become eligible to use such loans for the purchase of existing properties. And before, the government has provided mortgage repayment relief of 1 million forints, 2,600 euros for large families when a third child was born, and a further 1 million forints for each subsequent child. With the new action plan, the government pledged to provide this relief around 2,600 euros for each subsequent child. As part of the action plan, women who have given birth to and raised 4 or more children become exempt from personal income tax for the rest of their lives. And the government also announced the introduction of a car purchase program for large families. It pledged to provide families raising at least 3 children with a non-repayable grant of around 6,000 euros for the purchase of new cars with at least 7 seats. And the government also pledged to create 21,000 new places in crashes over the years, and this, thanks to this measure, by 2022, every family was able to place their young children into crash facilities. And the final point of the action plan was the introduction of childcare payments for grandparents. If parents decide so, grandparents would be able to receive childcare payments instead of them. Now I would turn to regional aspects. National solutions can become increasingly effective when complemented by regional solutions, which can be tailor-made well to specific regions and their unique features. To this end, the Committee of the Regions is a key partner when it comes to making regions' voice heard. I was previously rapporteur of the opinion on demographic change, proposals on measuring and tackling its negative effects in the EU regions. The opinion stressed the need for coherent policy responses on all levels of governments to help to reverse at least mitigate the effects of demographic decline. Proposals of the opinion called for support for young families or dedicated investment in culture and connectivity, dedicated incentive schemes for young people to return to their regions and start family. It was focusing for work-life balance and reducing the health and caring costs. increasing planning of public investment, lowering the dropout rate of young people, and also gave special attention to the public service provision. Now, looking to another regional action is the current demographic toolbox opinion. As you may know, and we could hear it already today, last year, June, the European Council conclusions called on the Commission to put forward a toolbox to support member states in addressing demographic challenges. The relevant communication published by the European Commission in October last year outlines a policy framework based on 4 pillars, namely parents, youth, older persons, and migration. In my view, the toolbox will be an important opportunity to give recognition to some of our national and regional best practices and explore the possibilities of implementing some innovative solutions learned from past crises, for example, the opportunities of remote working enabled by digitalization and its potentially beneficial effects when it comes to brain drain in regions. As a newly appointed rapporteur on the related Committee of the Regions opinion, my role will be to ensure that our diverse experiences are taken into account, implementing best practice solutions from all around Europe. We already could hear some good examples. I'm looking forward to check the Digital Village initiative, what Aaron told us. That Lucia mentioned was also really interesting about digital and on-life employee experience. So to conclude on a personal note, as a proud father of multiple children, I personally believe that through children we can do more and achieve more. It is also evident that without children there is no continuation, no economic advancement, and there is no security. Let's ensure that European regions are filled with life for generations to come. To this end, we must continue our work and put demography high on the EU agenda. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carazzoni. And really, it's impressive, the policies that Hungary has been implementing the last years. Now it's a leader in Europe, I think, in this kind of policies. And one thing I like a lot of Hungary, because this is not only giving financial benefits or good services, because, for example, in the Nordic countries of Europe, like Sweden, Finland, Denmark, they have a lot of benefits for families, but the birth rate is declining very fast, and they are like the countries of the south of Europe. Then I think that the good thing of Hungary is the effort to create a new culture. And for example, last September, I remember I was in Budapest in the summit, demographic summit, and for me, I like it a lot to when you enter into the airport and you leave from the plane. Yes, you have a big advertisement with a very nice picture of families in all languages of Europe saying, Hungary, a family-friendly country. This is a way to create culture, and I like. Yes, thank you. Then I give the floor to the last speaker this morning, which is, Margit Tuneman. Margit Tuneman is Senior Policy Officer in a very interesting project, which is Orbat, to talk about cooperation between cities. You talk about it. Then I think it's very interesting to know what Orbat is. Then thank you very much, Mrs. Tuneman, to be with us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation and the possibility to speak to you today on driving change. Okay. I hope it doesn't give the loop. To speak to you today on driving change for better cities. That's the motto of the Orbat program. And I'll talk about Orbat support for cities cooperation and digital transformation. So, it's the red one? No. The arrow. Okay, thank you. So what is the ÖBAG program? It's not one single project, it's a program. And I will try to explain that to you in a nutshell so that you can see whether it's interesting for you or not. ÖBAG is a European territorial cooperation program, so it's important about cooperation. It's co-funded by the European Regional Development Fund, so it's part of the cohesion policy of Europe. We exist since more than 20 years already. Over 1,000 cities in Europe have been involved in our projects in more than 150 networks. Cities networks, that's our projects. Our mission is to promote sustainable urban development through cooperation. So we invest in networking of cities, which means networking between cities and local actors, between cities in Europe and stakeholders. It also means that we invest in people and skills. We don't invest in bricks. We don't finance building of roads or something like that. We invest in people and skills, which means we go into the urban practice, we learn with the city administrations, we build capacity, and especially we try to share knowledge. Cities work together in networks, they have knowledge, they have experience, they create new knowledge, we take that up and we share it and we disseminate it to other cities for the benefit of not only those cities who are in the projects, but also those who are generally in Europe or even beyond. The topics that our cities are working on are actually very diverse. So we are not working on one specific theme or policy. The cities can choose their project theme themselves. It's really a bottom-up approach. They define whether they want to work on integration of migrants, on urban poverty, on air quality, on the circular economy, on food, on culture, you name it. We don't have family here yet, hint. Some of them work on digital transition. That's maybe interesting for us today. And they all have in common that they work also on cross-cutting aspects. So that's the part of working on sustainable urban development, which is a holistic approach. They all need to keep also a look at the green transition, so the environmental aspects. Gender equality is our current focus in terms of really a social issue, and digital transition as a cross-cutting aspect also maybe a bit more towards the economy as well. I give you a few examples that it makes it a bit more tangible. We have currently one network of 9 European cities which is called Digi Inclusion. Their motto is "Leave no one behind in a digital world." The lead partner is Mollet de Vallès in Spain. So we always have a network led by one city who is taking a bit the lead and managing the network for the others. And this network is working on the digital divide, and they want to tackle social exclusion and to boost equal access to technology, for example, for the elderly or for poor people who just can't afford the mobile phone or the computer that you need to take part in a digital society. So that's their theme that they have chosen themselves, and they want to especially invest or work on developing skills for those people and empower people. I put the link in the presentation, so if you're interested, just go to the link and check out what they're working on. Another project is the Next Gen Youth Work. It's about developing a hybrid, so digital and analog environment and for a sustainable future for youth workers. That's a network with 10 European cities led by Eindhoven in the Netherlands. And you see here that really the network is covering the whole of Europe, including a city of North Macedonia, Tetovo, because we also include the Western Balkans already, and we will now also reach out to the Ukrainian and Moldovan cities. So it's not only the member states, we go already a little bit beyond. This network is maybe also interesting, especially in this context for families, because it's about reaching out to the youth, young people who are more and more in the digital sphere. And there's a huge demand for youth workers who give help for young people in need. And they need to meet young people. And I mean, in the past it was more easy because you just go physically where the young people meet, but now they meet in the digital sphere. So this project is about how to train the youth workers so that they can give their psychological or social support to the young people in the network. They want to tackle the social isolation of young people, the loneliness, these negative effects that were mentioned already, depression, stress, or gaming addiction. And that is, of course, a huge topic also for municipalities. Maybe just one last example, just to give you an idea. Another project is working on tech diversity. They want to boost diverse communities in the digital and tech sector. And I find this network so interesting because it's actually a network of small and medium-sized cities. So they identified the problem that they have a tech community in their small cities, but these tech communities are actually quite homophobes is not the right word, but they're not diverse. So they don't include many women, they don't include handicapped people, they don't include older people. So this is what these municipalities want to work on. To explain to you a little bit still what we are doing from URBACT, so the URBACT Secretariat, which is based in Paris, gives the support to the city networks, and we manage the program on behalf of the European Commission, who is giving the money, and on behalf of the member states, because some of the money that we can give to the cities is also coming from the member states. It's shared management. So our method is that we organize this transnational exchange. We connect the cities so that they can learn from peers. This was also something that was mentioned already this morning, that this is apparently very interesting for you to learn from peers. Networks in our program normally work up to 2.5 years together, depending a bit on the call, but so they really have some time to work together. And generally their aim is to co-produce local strategies. So every municipality needs to implement or to design actually a local plan. So each has its own output, but it's co-produced. So all the network is working together. They also collect good examples, they collect knowledge, they develop sometimes even tools or other outputs that can be of help for other cities as well. And we put a very strong focus on the integration of different policies in these projects. So even if the cities choose one specific topic, like here the tech diversity, we force the cities to have a holistic view, to look in their administration and in their territory who are the relevant stakeholders, which are the relevant policies that need to be involved. It's probably the same if you want to design a good family policy. It's not only about family policy, it's a lot about tax policy, economic policy, social policy. So you always need to have this holistic view. And we also look at the different levels of governance. So we don't stick only to the local level. We also try to cooperate with the regional level, which in our case is very important for further funding. Often the investments, the real investments, come then from the regional level. And we also link the cities with the national and European level if there are any relevant initiatives, so that they also can show their added value to the national policy and the European policy. We also inquire, or we also force, so to say, the cities to really put a participatory approach into practice. They need to have a local support group, a local urban group where they involve all the relevant stakeholders of the municipality, of the administration, but also of the private sector and the citizens organizations. We provide them with tailor-made support. We pay for experts who really accompany them throughout the whole project period to develop their plans and their actions. And these experts are trained with specific methods and tools that they can offer to the cities to test actions and to implement this kind of integrated approach that we want to have. And just to give you a rough idea about the money, that's important, of course, the European co-financing for these projects is up to 850,000 euros per network. It depends a bit on the calls. So this is what 8 to 10 or 12 municipalities can work with for 2.5 years. Some more money comes from the member states, and the municipalities themselves, of course, they also have to co-finance. Here are 2 more project examples. I just put the link in, and maybe also one link to an online course that we established together with past networks, an online course that is for free for cities on the digital transition. So this is also one output of the network work that we are doing with municipalities in Europe. So this is what URBACT is about. If you want to join us, of course, you can first subscribe to our newsletter, then you get regularly updated on our actions, and maybe you want to have a look into the calls for projects. That's, of course, the relevant thing. There is currently a call open for innovation transfer networks. It closes in March. It's a rather specific call, working on or building on experience in the past, on past initiatives, but maybe it's interesting because all the tender documents are online and we are organizing webinars, so maybe it's just an occasion to look into it already and to grasp a little bit what these networks are about. There will be a good practice call in April this year, which will be the preparation for a bigger call next year, 2025, for transfer networks, and then one more big call in 2 years on action planning networks. That's the type of networks that I was talking about in the other projects that you have seen. So maybe that's interesting for you. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. I think very interesting for our 140 municipalities of the network, because I think we can, from our network, maybe it's possible to present a project with some municipalities of the network in good practices or transfer. I think it's very interesting. Thank you very much. Then we open a short space if you have any question to our speakers on this morning. Any question about all the topics we're talking about? For example, I don't know, because I'm very interested, for Matteo, about this question of the many vote, because how do you think could be done? Because we want really to push this idea into the European Union, because in Spain we have the same feeling. There is a bigger gap between the investment in the elderly, with pensions is bigger and bigger amount of money, and the investment in youth people. And we have a very high rate of youth unemployment. Then how if we give the vote to the children, probably in the political programs the interest of children and youth people will be on the top. Then how can we done, for example, a proportional part of the children vote each father, mother,
So thank you for giving me the chance to go back to this topic, which I love. I also do some theoretical paper. I'm looking for somebody who wants to do some empirical work here, and that's why I was. So, by the way, there is already an empirical work that shows the direction that could take. Recently, there was a paper published on a major economic journal that took basically analyzed what happened in the US when some states, you know, that in order to vote in the US, it's very difficult. You have to pre-register. So it's not like you just, have 18 years old and you go to vote. You have to go somewhere months before and you register in order to be eligible to vote. And that explains why so few young people vote. So what happened was that 10 years ago, some states made it easier to pre-register. So they basically opened up these pre-registration stations, next to McDonald's, or where young people were actually easier to go. Just this. So we are not talking about lowering the age. We are not talking about giving the vote to parents, proxy vote to parents. Just making easier for the young people to vote made detectable, analyzing how public money was spent in those states after this reform was introduced. So basically they showed that politicians spent more on public schooling in those states. A detectable and statistically significant increase in educational spending. So, you know, and this was nothing, okay? It was really like moving very few thousand votes. So just to say that the direct is not like a fantasy. I mean, we already have some evidence that this could be really groundbreaking in terms of changing the balance in the public budget. So how to do it? So let me say that, I mean, there is a concurrent movement that is already taking place about lowering the voting age. Okay, so some countries already allow some 16 years old people to vote. So the important thing is that these two things should not be in conflict. Okay, these are not alternative positions. You can do both. So the idea that I didn't present the slide, but the Demeni was in the 80s. The new ideas now is that you should, I mean, give proxy voting for granted from the beginning. So when a child is born, the parents vote for him. But it's not like you wait until 18 years old. You can move the vote from the parent to the child earlier. How much earlier? Well, that's open to discussion. Somebody says 16. Somebody say, well, we are not in a position to judge. Why do we judge? Why do we put a requirement? Why do we judge the capacity of children and we don't do it for elderly people? We allow people, mentally ill people, we allow people with very limited capacity to vote, but we require the children to show that they somehow are able to. So there is an open discussion here. I'm not saying that. The only thing, let's not make that in conflict, okay? We can do both. We can do proxy voting plus lowering the voting age. And the important thing is to start. So in small communities, so for instance, in Italy, there would be a constitutional it would be a constitutional violation if one municipality would take that initiative. But no, I mean, it can be done for private organizations. Maybe there are sport clubs. Maybe there are, parachutes. I mean, there are a lot of organizations that have some electoral mechanisms that can be that decides then how to spend some money. And so we should try to make some experimentation to show that this works, can be done. It really affects policies after that. And
Thank you very much. Any question, Regina? Yes.
Yes, thank you. I would like to ask to the associations like EIDL and URBACT also, if you think that the family mainstreaming can be considered as an innovation, and do you think that Europe or your kind of association are ready to accept this perspective? Because so far we have difficulty. It has been said that family is not a matter of concern of the European Commission, of the European Union, and of course family is not mentioned among the pillars, the 20 pillars of the. So we have this problem. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for the question. Yes, indeed. No, it's an exciting question and somewhat of a perplexing one for the reasons that you set out. So, speaking just from Edel's perspective, as I put that slide in the beginning, we stay true to our mantra, to our core. Yeah, the DL, the local development and the innovation. So everything that we do needs to focus around it has to have some sort of innovative aspect, and it has to have some sort of local development aspect in Europe on top of it. So we're not working in Africa or et cetera. We're really focusing on Europe, and by the way, the expanded Europe, so Balkans, even into the Caucasus. We're looking at some projects in Georgia and Armenia and things like that. But one does not preclude the other, because as I hope I showed to a degree in the short presentation was, especially when you're working in rural areas, in these communities, you're absolutely working with families. Absolutely, it's an integral part of the fabric of the society. We're not working with, Coca-Cola and huge conglomerates. I mean, we're working with nothing against Coca-Cola. I'm just saying we're working with small municipalities and normally in rural regions, and they're all saying the same things. A lot of things that have been said here, and the family node is a fundamental part of it. As I sort of touched on, keeping also the family together and keeping the young people in the rural area, or taking over the family farm, or staying at home it's an issue. Now, we don't have answers to that, but just to speak on Edel's behalf, absolutely, this is something that we're looking at, and we're, as you said in your opening remarks, we're listening. We're constantly in listening mode, talking with them, listening, and trying to get feedback so that we can also, when we're working on our projects, tweak the best, let's say, mix of activities, that ultimately raise all boats, including the families. Thank you.
Yes, maybe to add from ELFAC side, there is actually for us no problem to fund projects that are somewhat in a realm of a policy where there is no European competence, because we are working with municipalities. We are doing urban development, and even urban development policy is not a European competence. But this is all under the umbrella of cohesion policy, and especially regional policy, as it was also mentioned before by the Committee of the Regions member. So if you look at it from that angle, there should be no problem to work on local issues. And we have other projects that work on health, for example, and who go into schools and look at the school food. So you see, it can be very local, very tangible, and very relevant for families. It might be then a little bit, matter, and it will depend on how exactly you frame the project. But as such, if it's an urban development issue, and I would think the idea or the goal of being a child-friendly or a family-friendly city is a perfectly valuable idea, it can be, as such, an eligible project.
Can I just add one last thing that came to mind, a practical aspect as well, just 30 seconds. I'm always trying to think practically, because we're working on projects. So if there's a project, for example, Urbact or Interreg or what have you, again, we can work together, however, and we can frame it. If there's a call, we can integrate a work package looking at the family node in such and such community, for example. And that could be a work package that maybe not Edel would take on, but one of the partners here would take on, and we would do something else or look at the policies of the... My point is there's ways to collaborate on this and to sort of put together something practical so that we have a nice project that advances the theme that we're discussing today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other question, very short? Then we have a short delayment. Then it's time to go for lunch. You can you can go with your badge to the cafeteria here, the canteen, and then we'll meet again at 2:15. Thank you.